is Evan Jackson of Young, Bold, and Regal. We're here with the incredible, the amazing filmmaker Jada George. She has a great short film called Where the Children Go to Play, right? I want to talk more
Yes.
about it, but please introduce yourself.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Thank you again, Evan, for having me. Again, my name is Jada George, and I am the director of Where the Children Go to Play.
I'm gonna go right into it. It's such an interesting and also a timely short film. It really reminded me of George Lucas's film debut of THX 1138. And to remind our
Hmm.
audience of that, before the Star Wars fame, George Lucas wrote a short film in film school, which he extended to his feature film, and it was about this dystopian future where to say the least, everything was out of whack. Everything was isolated. It was very monochrome. And those are the
Hmm.
things I saw in your film as well. Speak more to what inspired you to make the film. And then honestly, the look of the film feels so original as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think for me, there was just a big sense of urgency behind this film. I think personally, I moved to LA to pursue my dreams as a filmmaker at the end of 2019. So I got hit with COVID right when I got here.
Hmm.
I stayed here because I knew if I went home, it would be harder to get back. So it was kind of just me, trying to figure out, patience and just understanding that God wouldn't have me somewhere that I'm not meant to be. So I waited it out. And then the strike happened. And then I feel like so many things have just been happening back to back. So when we filmed this, we actually filmed this last summer in 2024. I
Hmm.
think I was just so eager. Like I was like, I came out here to be a filmmaker. I came out here to show the world, the world from my perspective and to tell stories. And it seemed like as the years went on, it was just always a pause. So there was urgency behind this. I was just excited to get something made. And then I think to speak to the urgency of the actual story, it's a story, like you said, that kind of describes a world where the technology that we've created to help humanity actually ends up controlling humanity. So
Right?
I think that there's a timeliness in that. I mean, when we're speaking on AI, I think once I was able to really characterize our proctors. For folks who haven't seen it yet, it's kind of a story that's where we're experiencing one situation from the candidates' perspectives and then from the proctors' perspectives. And it took me a while to figure out, who are these proctors? Like, what's their identity? Are they robots? Are they aliens? And then I think once AI was like introduced to us on a grander scale, it's
Yeah.
always been there, but like over the past few years, it's been like the height of conversation. And that's when it immediately clicked. And I was like, oh no, this is AI. And I think
Yeah.
from there, it all just came together.
And it's interesting because this short film, everybody, is everybody's worst nightmare realized. A lot of the
Yeah,
people in favor of AI are saying, no, the humans are in control of it. We are doing the prompts. But we can't think of everybody as virtuous as the next human being. So I like how this
exactly.
film explores the worst nightmares where the human being is at the mercy of the machine, of the AI. It touches on man versus machine, but it's actually machine ruling over man. Speak more about
Exactly.
that too.
Yeah. I think kind of what you said, it's that so I was inspired by Black Mirror.
Mm,
I love how Black Mirror, they tell stories of things and technology that feels so distant, but they do it in a way that makes it feel like, oh, this could happen tomorrow. Like it makes you take a look at where we are today in terms of just technology and how it's kind of influencing what we do as a society. And it was really that story. I think just figuring out kind of to go back to the look of it, it's 15 minutes all in. Honestly, I would say it's probably three locations at most,
yeah.
but the reality of filming it, it was all in one studio. So it was kind of that task of how do I create something that keeps people interested for 15 minutes, given that the story is basically just us watching people sit at a table and there's not many characters. I was working with very little, but I think that's kind of what made me say, you know what, if it's going to be 15 minutes of me having people's attention, let me make it the most unsettling 15 minutes
Yes.
that I can. And that's where the environment came into play. I wanted it to be just white. Like I wanted it to feel cold, to
Mm-hmm.
almost make it feel like this isn't
Yes.
a place that you would want to be comfortable in. And
Mm-hmm.
then from the sound design, like I just wanted people to feel uneasy for all of the 15 minutes because I think that's what will really lock in folks' attention. And then that makes you kind of sit with the characters and you begin to feel for them in a sense of, like you said, they're being basically these folks who hold power. I can't even say folks, it's technology, it's
Yeah,
AI.
technology.
They hold this power, and their point is to prove that they can break us and to prove just how, erratic humans can be, if you will. And that was, I just wanted people to be uncomfortable the whole time.
Yes, and you and your team specifically, you do a brilliant job of the sound design, especially the last 2 minutes. The
Yeah.
last 2 minutes, you're anticipating, you feel like you know what's going on. They're led into another room, and it felt like the beginning of an X-Files show. It felt like the beginning of those dystopian X-Men films when they're fighting
Yeah.
the droids, and it was that was just interesting. Take us through that where you and your team, you were like, all right, we want to do this little bit of a twist and we want to amp up the sound design.
Yeah. So, that end scene that you're talking about, that was actually something that we ended up changing that once we saw the set. The ending was supposed to be, we were supposed to hear Seven and Solana now talking to their children. It was supposed to be like 5 years later, and you hear them kind of telling their child, don't hurt the caterpillar, like kind of like pushing on the things that
Mm-hmm.
if you're gonna grow up to be like us in a situation where you're gonna be questioned from everything that you've done from a young age to now. So let's like get you on track now and teach you, to be kind and to not hurt any living being. It was
Mm-hmm.
kind of gonna be that story. But for me, I wanted it to, like you said, feel like the beginning of wherever your mind will take you.
Yes.
Like the ending makes you feel like, okay, we just watched them go through this traumatic experience, but ultimately they did get what they wanted. They're approved and they can be stewards of the human race. They got together and they walked through this room that leads them to this stale room that's supposed to be set up like a welcome home. Here's the couch, here's the banner. Now you guys can, reproduce. But I wanted it to really feel like it just leaves you with the thought of what is about to happen next, because I think that kind of again places us in back into our own reality.
Mm-hmm.
And as it ends, it's like it kind of ends with like, in a way, I wanted to recreate a family portrait, how I had them sit and they
Yes.
kind of gave a smile. Because
Uh-huh.
it's like, yes, I'm smiling because I got what I wanted, but was it worth it? And also, I think it ties into the title where the children go to play. This world that we've been watching for the past 15 minutes does not seem like any place, one, a child would be, or two,
No.
they would go play. So the ending is kind of them being like, wait, this is the world we're about to bring a child into, but this is what I wanted, and now I have to smile about it
I have to
and
conform.
forget exactly and forget about the trauma that I just experienced. So I think that was like from the music, that's why there was no dialogue. I wanted it to really just feel like a dance, like kind of just
Yes.
like a choreographic moment of just like it leaves you with nothing but your thoughts. It leaves you with the trauma that we just experienced, and it makes you question, like, where do we go from here? What's next? And then I also think in a world where this gets picked up to be a feature, I think the ending leaves us with so much. We can start from that exact moment, like where do they go from there? We can fast forward or we can go back. Like it kind of just ends in a sense of like we've lived in this one room, but what does the world look like? And hopefully that's something that we can see, in the next chapter of where the children go
Yes,
to
and
play.
what I took the title as is something as ironic and poetic because in this narrative, the adults who come for the assessment are the children, and the proctors are the ones who are playing and toying with them. So it
Exactly.
serves as a double entendre where as adults, we never find ourselves in that position where we're out of control or out of grips with what's going on, but they have
Mhm.
relinquished control to the proctors, to the synths, to the androids, to the whomever they are in the featured film.
Exactly.
Right? So
Yes,
I wanted to ask
exactly.
you, you recently won at a film festival, which is amazing. Tell us
Yes, thank
more
you.
about where we could see this film in theaters at the next film festival you're going to premiere it at.
Yes, so it's actually screening today and tomorrow in Baltimore at a film festival. There's one in Nashville. I wish I had exactly what these film festivals were called, but it's been great because my producers, they'll text me like every week with like a new list of film festivals that we've gotten into. So it's been great to know that my film is being screened across the country. It's not even something that I even imagined, but yeah, we're coming up in Baltimore, Nashville. We have one happening in Brooklyn coming up.
Yeah.
And then, as the days go on, we're just going to continue to add to that list. But we have an official website now where the children go to play.com, and there you can find the actual official list of where it'll be screened.
Yeah, and then I saw your Instagram. I like that you showcased that you're a fan of old Hollywood. You have a black and white photo with the
Yeah.
person with the I believe is who's the person in the black and white photo? Is it
So that's actually a photo shoot that I took of Melody Thornton
yes,
from.
Melody Thornton. Yes.
Yes, yeah.
I knew she looked familiar, and it just feels like with your Instagram and your narrative films, you're trying to tell a story.
Mhm.
What is an old Hollywood film that inspired Where the Children Go to Play?
Ooh, that's a good question. Man, I haven't even thought about anything. I don't know if I can speak to anything that's old Hollywood, but a film that does come to mind, again, completely not old Hollywood, but What Happened to Monday? I remember watching that.
Mm,
That was on Netflix. I want to say, like, I feel like I was in college. I forget what year, but that was like a true dystopian world that kind of speaks to that same, reproductive rights. And
yeah,
that was a major inspiration for me. But I think just to speak to old Hollywood in general and how it influences me, you know, I have always dreamt of living in LA, and I think I've always known I wanted to be a filmmaker, but I didn't know at what capacity that was going to be. At first, I thought it was going to be acting, but then I quickly realized I don't want to be in front of the camera.
yeah,
Um, but it wasn't until I moved to LA where I think I just am constantly inspired by what I'm seeing. And I think that's really major for me being a director, being a visionary. I'm a very visual person, and I love being in LA and just knowing that, I'm walking on Sunset Boulevard on the stars. And in the back of my mind, I can't help but think like, Diana Ross walked on these same streets when she was
yes.
in her prime. Michael Jackson walked on these same streets. So I think that world of just my love for old Hollywood. And then also, I'm a photographer first and foremost. Like, that's kind of where my entire journey started. So
Yeah.
when I connected with Melody, we shot that at the Roosevelt Hotel, and as you know, there's
Mm.
so much history in that.
The
And I
Marilyn
remember
Monroe, Oscars, all that.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And that was just the feel where she was just like, I'm feeling a deep appreciation for old Hollywood, and I would love to create something that's, I guess I would like to use the word timeless, which is something that I'm always aspiring with all of my projects. I hope to create things that are timeless, things
Hmm.
that kind of speak on conversations that we know we can always revisit, and then also just figuring out how to capture it in a way that tells a story in itself. As a photographer, I think that's one of the first things that I learned, and that's one of the major things that has been crucial to my transition into directing is just understanding how one shot can tell a story of a
Yeah.
million words. And that's kind of that inspo from that photo.
Yeah, and then an old Hollywood film that reminds me of your film
Mm-hmm.
is Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where if
I
anybody's
haven't seen
seen,
that.
yeah, if anybody's seen a black and white version, it's very eerie. It feels like a
Mm-hmm.
Twilight Zone kind of film in that
Twilight
world.
Zone alone. Yeah.
Yes, Twilight Zone, Black Mirror, kind of just that uneasiness of like, I understand what's going on, then maybe I don't. And why these people for your film are so desperate to be connected is because these people are the judge, jury, and executioner of the world building that you've created as well. Talk
Yeah.
about also the timeliness of it, which is really fascinating. Reproductive rights, people
Mm-hmm.
honestly tapping more into chat GPT AI even more than another human, trusting more than that. So talk about that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's like the major thought point that I hope people take away from it is kind of just realizing, we're putting so much energy into AI, and we're filling it with prompts, we're filling it with storylines, people are using it for therapy. So we're telling it information that reflects our day to day, no matter who it is. So it's kind of that idea of like, okay, we know that America, just to speak on America alone, has a history when it comes to control and power being placed in the wrong hands.
Hmm.
And this is a story that speaks to kind of just at that point, when power is put in the wrong hands, but when it's done in a way that is so specific to who we are as people, like so specific to humanity. We're giving them all of the knowledge about who we are to a point where it now knows us more than we know it.
Yes.
And and when I was trying to figure out, the dynamic of the characters, it was funny because it wasn't until it clicked for me that I realized, okay, this is going to be the flow of it, and this is just how I want to tell this story. But it was kind of my thought of, okay, these proctors, if you will, AI, it's man-made, like we created it. So when you watch the film, you'll see they never stutter or have an error unless they say humanity or humans, because that's their way of always showing us, even though you guys are better and superior than we are, it's still created by humans. Therefore, it's still going to be flawed.
Mm.
And unfortunately, that flaw is the power and the control that's undeniable. When humans get a certain level of power and control, that's when the script flips.
Yeah. And,
So
and
whenever they say human or humanity or even error, I had them do a little moment, because it's like, yes, they're perfect and we're like bound down to them, but to a certain point, it's always going to be a flaw in it because nothing could ever be perfect.
yes, and
So
that reminded me of the Jay-Z line, "Sins of the father make your life 10 times harder."
harder,
The father
exactly.
of AI, the fathers of AI tend to be a lot of non-people of color, let's call it as it is, white people
Yeah,
imbue
yeah,
their flaws into the AI as well, which I
exactly.
find very fascinating too.
Yeah, and that's that whole the reproductive rights, the power, the control, systemic oppression, just all of these things that we're experiencing in real life. It's being transferred to these robots, but now they're doing it in a way that is so, it affects us because they know how to hit us where it hurts, and that's that psychological fit factor.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I remember I was talking to someone who watched it, and they were saying, I didn't think that they were going to make it, like from how it was shot and from those scenes. I didn't think
Yeah.
they would pass the test. And I did that on purpose because, again, that's just how you said, where the children going to play. They're just playing with us. The proctor's point is to prove that I can break you. In the beginning,
Yes.
she says, humans are too sympathetic towards each other to administer these
Hmm.
tests. So it's kind of that idea of, based on the paperwork that you guys had to fill out, based on us already knowing you guys, because this is the system that they've created, we know you guys are suitable. It's kind of just about you finding your match. But while I have you here, I'm going to prove that I can break you, and prove why we're in this position and humans aren't.
And
So they do all of that just to be like, oh, congratulations, you made it.
yeah.
And then they expect us to be like, yay. But it's like, we're traumatized now. And like,
Since
they don't care. They flip the switch.
yeah, since you filmed this until now, in regards to this film and your personal feelings, you feel like there's more humanity in the world or less humanity in the world?
Man, I think that's a great question because I think it's less when we think of the sense of we're still living in a world where technology is evolving at a rate way faster than we are, and we're trying to keep up with it to a point where it's preventing us from being present in our own worlds. And I think that's the part where humanity is failing, because it's causing us to turn a blind eye to situations happening around us. It's causing us to be, things are so normalized, things that should not be, things that are unfortunate, things that,
Yeah, we,
so
we
it's
don't
like,
know what's AI and what isn't these days. Even if it's real,
exactly,
people are
exactly,
saying is it AI.
exactly. And in a way that's like desensitizing us, because now, like you just said, now people are so quick to be like, oh no, that's AI. Even if it is real, that's always going to be something that people can now throw in that'll automatically make people be like, you know what? You're right. Maybe you didn't commit this crime. Yes, that was AI. And now it's like we're completely desensitized to things. So I will say, in a way, we're losing a lot of the very things that make us human and make the world go round. But I will say, I think it's also forcing us to realize just how far away from the goalposts we're getting with technology. And I think there will come a time where we collectively say, you know what, this actually isn't a good idea. Let's actually go back to the things that we know and not give technology so much of our energy to the point where, we're walking around with VR goggles in
Yeah.
LA, but through the goggles, I'm in Morocco.
Hmm.
Like maybe that is a good idea. So I think we will hit a place where we go back and we say, you know what, let's stop this right here. And I'm hoping that's sooner rather than later. But I think it's going to force us to get to that point. People are losing their jobs.
Hmm.
Simple tasks that humans would do, from grocery store clerks to Uber drivers that are now being driven by
Yes.
driverless,
Cars,
automatic
yes. Driverless cars
cars.
getting pulled over, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly, exactly. So think it's going to hit a point where we're like, actually, let's not do this. So hopefully that's sooner than later.
Yes, and then finally tell our audience where they could see the film in the future and where they could follow the film and follow you.
Yes. So head to our website, where the children go to play.com, and that will give you all the background that you need, from the trailer to, we have some behind the scenes photos that we have on there. You get to learn about our cast and our crew. And then there's also a list that has all of the upcoming film festivals on there. You can follow me on Instagram at jm.beanie. That's jmbeanie. And I also have a website, jmbeanie.art. So you can keep up with us on any of those platforms. And we're excited. Hopefully, we're screening in a city near you guys soon.
Yes, and to tell our audience, everybody out there, Jada George does a very good job as a filmmaker of where the children go to play. It's eerie, it's scary, it's something that's futuristic, but it feels present day as well. So we're hoping her much success. We could see a huge IP catching her and saying, "Let's do this original film in this IP." But for now, make sure to follow where the children go to play. Make sure to see you at the film festival she's at, and make sure to follow Young, Bold, and Regal. Thank you.
Yes, thank you guys. Thank you so much.